Well, good morning, and thanks for joining us for today's live presentation on next generation e-learning, how it's built. We do have a lot to cover, and we're going to try to keep this presentation to around 30 minutes. Before we move on, I do want to quickly call your attention to the LMS Courses branding here on the screen. This is the first time we've used this in a webinar presentation. Just want to let you know this is still Driver's Alert. But our new and original e-learning, which is not repurposed content, it's brand new. It's branded under the LMS Courses name just to better reflect that our training content is not just for fleet safety, but also covers general safety topics such as workplace safety, DOT compliance, health and wellness, and HR leadership development. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. So to quickly put a face to a name, I'm Rich Sordahl. I'm responsible for marketing at Driver's Alert and LMS Courses. And a little bit about us, we have more than 1,500 clients. Over 350,000 vehicles are currently under contract, and that translates into literally millions of documented unsafe driving events shared with our customers since our inception all the way back in 1989. We're also a trusted partner for more than 100 companies in the insurance industry. But definitely the theme over our existence of 28 years is without a doubt innovation. The company got its start in 1989 as a How's My Driving company. We're one of the pioneers in that industry. And today it's the most robust How's My Driving program on the market. And over the years, we've added more solutions to our fleet safety offering. And you see those here on the screen. And along the way, we've offered many firsts. Within the How's My Driving product, we were the first to offer the high visibility reflective decals for night viewing, first to assign unique vehicle IDs, as well as digitally record motorists' calls, and the first to offer corrective action process for integrating incident-specific online training. In our MVRs, we allow you to run MVR checks for new hire vetting, as well as routine reviews of current drivers. And one of the innovations within the MVR program is that we've normalized the scoring across states. Many states do have different ways of assigning scores to violations, and so we've made it simpler to compare apples to oranges across those states, and also have given everyone a more simplified single source for ordering. We're also the first to offer safety-based telematics application. Most programs do offer the focus on the operational side of things, such as miles per gallon or route optimization, but we look more at driver behavior because we do believe that driver behavior is the most important variable when it comes to fleet safety. And next generation e-learning, which you're going to hear quite a bit about today, it's the newest content available, and it's all original material. We kind of look at ourselves as the inventor of fleet safety. Sadly, one of the studies shows that really only about 13% of fleets actually employ any kind of a training program. So we really are an e-learning advocate, and you'll hear a lot today about technology, HTML5, how it's a focused content that doesn't waste your time. It's tablet ready, and it can be employed for both corrective action as well as proactive applications. And just simply because of the technology that underlies, it's faster and more affordable to customize. And of course, closed loop corrective action process, which is related to e-learning. We take that e-learning, we match it up with an incident to help reinforce that safety message, along with our proprietary coaching application, which documents that manager-employee meeting. So why are we here? Straightforward. E-learning industry really in general has been slow to adapt. Changing technology standards, evolving market demands. Most content still is flash-based and doesn't leverage the cloud. There are version control issues. You have aging content. Some companies are still using e-learning that hasn't been updated in 10 years. And quite frankly, the instructional design in many e-learning programs today is still somewhat unsophisticated and is just not challenging the learner. And we've addressed the market, we've taken the input, we've done something about it, and we're going to show you in today's presentation. And finally, just what is next generation e-learning? Well, Ron will explain to you what it is, why it's important to you, and exactly why you need this for your employees. So quickly look at today's goals. Ron's going to go over what e-learning is about. He will provide some concepts on adult learning and then talk about why next generation e-learning is different and how it's built. Then he'll address where the e-learning industry is going with microlearning, simulations, gamification, virtual reality, and then conclude the presentation with an introduction to Driver's Alert's new original content branded under LMS Courses. Then we'll take some questions and we will announce the Starbucks gift card winner. So with that said, Dr. Ron Kirsch has 30+ years of experience in the occupational health and safety industry. He is a true icon, having published numerous articles on OHS, risk management, and hazard communication that have appeared in leading trade journals such as Occupational Health and Safety, Safety and Health, the Journal of Workers' Compensation, and Safety Matters. Dr. Kirsch is also the architect and project leader responsible for making Drivers Alert's e-learning solution the most comprehensive in the industry. So with that said, I will turn it over to Ron. Ron?
Okay, thanks, Rich. I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll start with a quick overview of a few key elements of e-learning to get everybody on the same page. So what's this thing called SCORM, and why does it matter? Well, SCORM stands for Shareable Content Object Reference Model and was developed by the Advanced Distributed Learning Group sponsored by the DoD. SCORM has become the de facto industry standard for e-learning interoperability between the Learning Management System, or LMS, and the content. SCORM has pretty much replaced the AICC protocol, which was developed by the Aviation Industry CBT Committee. Now, Adobe Flash, which was formerly from Micromedia, was previously the dominant platform for online multimedia content for the last 20 years. And so it's 20 years old now, and it's really on the verge of extinction. And it's being abandoned because of inherent security flaws and the resources that are required to update and maintain the platform and the content that are delivered and developed with this tool. Now, major companies like Google and Apple no longer support Flash, and even Adobe plans on ending support for it in 2020. So if you currently use Flash, you already know there's some big inherent problems with it, and it's a headache. And so the takeaway really from this slide is that you don't want AICC because SCORM is now the de facto standard, and you really don't want Adobe Flash content anymore. So HTML5 is the latest and current version of language that's used for presenting content on the World Wide Web. Revision 5.1 came out in November of 2016, and revision 5.2 will come out later this year. And HTML5 has several advantages. It has better browser cross-compatibility with all the major web browsers. It's got offline caching, which means that users can load and view certain elements of content they viewed before without an active internet connection. So that speeds time in viewing content. HTML5 works with mobile devices and can automatically scale and optimize the display to the size of the device being used. And it's got built-in video and audio playback capabilities, so third-party programs like that old outdated Flash, QuickTime, and Silverlight are no longer needed. So it really doesn't matter to HTML5 if you're using a PC or a Mac, and it's both Android and iOS friendly for mobile devices. Now we're going to jump into adult learning theories, and there are many different theories and published scholarly works on adult learning, and I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but I will briefly touch on three that originated back in the early 70s and have been refined over the years. Malcolm Knowles is credited for the term andragogy, which was derived from the Greek meaning leader of man, and it's basic humanistic learning conception of self-direction and autonomous learning. And the theory is that adults need to know the reason for learning something. They rely on their past experiences and are most ready to learn when the material is relevant to their work and their life. And he believed that adult learning is oriented to problem solving and that we respond better to internal versus external motivations. David Kolb came along and coined the term experiential learning, and he believed that adults learn best by doing or experiencing rather than just memorizing facts and figures from books. Jack Meserow first articulated transformational learning when he was researching success factors of women in community college programs. And his theory helps explain how adults learn through those aha moments, when there's a meaning that's imparted, a new meaning imparted from an earlier experience. So the takeaway is these three theories remain the foundation of adult learning today, and they all have one basic goal in common: to understand how to create effective learning experiences for the adult learner. Now, theories are nice, but the reality of regulatory compliance and risk management is a little bit more straightforward. You need to know the regulations because the law requires it, and your employer probably does so too. And your past experiences, well, they could be good or bad. We don't really know. And how do you know that? And of course, training must be relevant to your job, and it needs to help you perform or help you solve a problem. And you certainly need to know how to do something safely before you experience it. You don't want to experience operating heavy machinery, for example, before you've been properly trained on how to do so. And in the real world, your motivation is often just to be able to keep on living and to keep your job. So adult learning styles, they characterize how people learn and how they categorize and process new information or content. And some people break these down into 6 modalities, but they're really just 3 primary styles. That's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Or to put it in simplistic terms, that's the see, hear, and do. And these 3 areas we focus on when we build our e-learning content today. The kinesthetic learning involves more than just hands-on. It's also touch, it's movement, it's interaction and engagement. And there's an old rule of thumb that we retain 10 to 20% of the knowledge that we see, 40% of what we see and hear, and 60 to 70% of what we see, hear, and do. And the problem is that the majority of new knowledge is actually lost very quickly if it's not used, reinforced, and repeated. So remember, repetition builds retention. And I don't know how accurate all those rule of thumb statistics are, but the fact remains that all adults learn and retain content knowledge differently. And that's why we design our e-learning content to appeal to all adult learning styles. So this convergence of these various media types to appeal to the main adult learning styles has been around for a while. We called it multimedia years ago, and we still do today. And we use a combination of visual, auditory, and kinesthetic activities as we build our courses. So we'll get into adult learning models now. The traditional adult learning model called ADDIE was one of the first models developed and followed a strict process to help produce consistent and repeatable results. Benjamin Bloom's taxonomy created a classification system of measurable verbs, basically just different verbs of cognitive learning with evaluation, synthesis, analysis, application, comprehension, and knowledge. Later, Anderson and Kraftwall revised Bloom's taxonomy and basically just renamed those verbs, calling them creating, evaluating, analyzing, applying, understanding, and remembering. Robert Gagne developed the 9 events or steps of instructional, beginning with the stimulus to engage the learner and gain their attention, then to inform the learner of the expected outcomes. That stimulates recall by leveraging prior experiences and presenting the content in consumable chunks or doses, and giving guidance with examples, eliciting performance with activities, reinforcing knowledge with feedback, assessing knowledge with a test, and using content retention strategies to help the learner transfer that knowledge to the job. I'm sure that all sounds familiar. So Merrill's principles of instruction started with solving real-world problems or tasks. He felt that a course must activate existing knowledge, demonstrate that knowledge both visually and through storytelling, and then allow the learner to demonstrate and apply this knowledge by integrating it into their world. So all of these models have merit and a lot of similarity between the two, as you can see. And even though ADDIE was one of the first adult learning models built, it may still be the best. Amazon's senior instructional designer, Jared Garrett, recently said that ADDIE's not dead and we're not leaving it. Well, we're not leaving it either. And we continue to use the ADDIE model as the foundation when designing our course structure, but we really incorporate elements of all of those other models. We start with a welcome and an introduction of the course. We review the learning objectives. We deliver the core content with knowledge checks and interactive learning activities throughout to reinforce that learning. And then at the end, we have a recap or summary to review what they've learned. Remember that old repetition builds retention, right? And then there's an assessment or quiz to measure what they've learned. And we don't really want to scare people with that word test. You know, that's always a scary concept. So there's also several options that you can use when you're delivering e-learning content. You can deliver it in a linear fashion where the learner has to proceed from the beginning to the end in a sequential order, or you can allow nonlinear navigation and allow the user to jump around to various sections of the content. Now, we found through many years of feedback from our customers that in terms of regulatory and compliance training, they prefer that content to be linear and succinct as possible. Now, the nonlinear training is sometimes effective for people who are wanting to learn or reinforce new topics like soft skills training, those kinds of things. But for the regulatory world and risk management, the majority of people vastly prefer the linear model. So regardless of the model that you use, building a new course is a methodical process. So here's a quick summary of how we build it. We first start with topic identification, and that's basically the focus of the subject matter. We typically identify a new topic in one of three ways. Market research reveals a widespread need for content not being met. Current events or regulatory activity warrant the addressing of an important issue, or clients request specific topics or custom courses to be developed. Second is the outline and storyboard. So every great training course begins as an idea. And in the early stage of development, our subject matter experts and instructional designers construct a draft of the course content and then begin laying out the actual elements in a storyboard format. And this includes the script for the voiceover narration. Next is the course kickoff. And during this pivotal step, all members of our production team convene to examine the storyboard for accuracy, relevancy, and flow. Questions and outstanding issues are addressed, and then the team reviews each slide of the storyboard and determine what type of slide it will be. Options range from general content slides that impart knowledge to learning activity slides that engage the learners by different methods. And then the storyboard and the narration script are finalized. The fourth step is content implementation. This is where all the hard work begins to take shape, and on-screen text, images, and voiceover are added to the course builder in our content management system, or CMS. To ensure engagement and to measure newly acquired knowledge, we have clever learning activities are designed throughout the course. And finally, to tie it all together, we have a bank of questions that are built to objectively quantify the subject matter comprehension and retention. So that's the quiz aspect. QA, final approach and launch. That's step 5. This last stage before release is a cross-functional team, again, comprising of the subject matter expert, instructional designer, and the production team. And they review each course a final time. And minor changes may be made at this stage, but once approval is received from each of the team members, the course is officially made available to the market and it's launched. Content updates may be made to any course as needed thereafter. So that's a quick recap of the process. And you might ask yourself, so what's new about all of that? Well, the next generation eLearning is hosted in the cloud by a CMS, and it's really just an extension of the software as a service or SaaS model. It's all multimedia, all content resides in a database, and it's dynamically generated on the fly when the learner requests the course. So no longer are courses published as a finished work and delivered to the users, who then have to worry about updating and maintaining multiple versions of courses as those updates and maintenance are performed. And all updates are made to the database rather than to individual courses, and they're delivered to the learner in real time as they launch the course. So you might be thinking, well, what's next generation about using all those traditional models and methodology? Well, our CMS really is a game changer. And even though the architecture of a full course is basically the same, the difference is in the technology that's used to build it, to update it, and maintain it, and deliver it to the learner. A good analogy would be comparing the use of a hand-drawn blueprint using a CAD/CAM software to create a 3D model. So imagine building that out on a paper blueprint versus using a software model for CAD/CAM and 3D modeling. Then think about the need to update and change those blueprints and those design elements. So the process is very similar, but the tools are very different. And the economies of scale, the efficiencies, and the ability to update and maintain that is just tremendous. With our CMA, it's now more affordable than ever to create custom content specific for your industry or specific for your particular organization. And this includes content and partner branding, customizations, and language translations. We can also work with your own subject matter experts to help reduce the cost of building custom content. We can also help you leverage your own existing assets like videos, graphics, and images. Any kind of assets you've already invested in, they can be embedded and incorporated into our HTML5 courses to make the more engaging learning experience, and those elements can be tracked by your learning management system. So our CMS and our expertise reduce the cost of that custom development and the speed to market. So we're going to step into microlearning, and it may be intuitive to assume that microlearning is simply delivery of small bursts of training assets, but in reality it means more than just small. It's not only short and compact in length, it's also focused and specific to specific areas of interest. So think about just in time and just enough to meet your specific needs. It doesn't waste your time. Now here's an example of a microlearning piece that we did on how to properly install a How's My Driving decal. And here's another one we did that was a quick microlearning piece on how to properly inflate tires. So microlearning is not really new, but the e-learning world's just starting to catch up with the way people have been supplementing their learning using things like social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. These little microlearning pieces that we did were also made available on YouTube and can be made and assigned through any learning management system. So we're developing right now a pre-trip inspection microlearning piece, and you can expect to see that before the year end. So the market's been all abuzz lately about gamification and VR. Last few years, really, gaming is a fun, and elements of interactive gaming can be built into e-learning today, and we do that now. But there's still challenges to gamification and simulations and certainly virtual reality, just in terms of it creating an artificial sense of achievement and encouraging sometimes unattended behaviors. So VR is really cool and immersive, but it's still very expensive to develop applications, and it may be great for gaming where you might have millions of people out there buying those games, but the practicality of its use for risk management and safety, it's not quite there yet. But the price of hardware is starting to come down, and thanks to the integrated use of smartphones within those devices, like the Oculus example you see here, those tools are coming down, and the software tools to develop that will also be coming down, and making them really more affordable and more affordable for EHS and the compliance space. And we will incorporate that technology into our design as that affordability and those costs come down. So our e-learning library today is the newest in the industry. It's combining the latest HTML5 technology with proven instructional design and development, so your training can be delivered anywhere there is an internet connection and managed by any SCORM compliant LMS. We support all the latest browsers, and the content can be delivered on tablets as well. So our content was developed in HTML5 native. It wasn't converted from Flash or some older technology. We've built it brand new from the ground up in HTML5. And we've also built We've developed a quick set of corrective action courses which are integrated into our How's My Driving program, our GPS telematics and MVR programs. And for example, Failure to Yield is a course that just recently came out this year, and Closing the Loop is another course which was launched recently to help train supervisors on how to coach and mentor their drivers, anyone using our How's My Driving program, our GPS telematics program, or our MVRs. These courses are also available in Spanish and can also be used along with our entire library proactively. So when you're seeing leading indicators or trends in corrective action course assignments, you can respond from a risk management perspective with a broader training assignment to your entire organization. It's just another tool for your toolbox. So in summary, today you've learned a little bit about adult learning and some e-learning lingo like SCORM and HTML5, CMS, and database-driven content and what that means. You've learned that microlearning and simulations and gamification and virtual reality are already here, and the costs are starting to come down for all of those things. So if you're an existing customer, you may not realize it, but you've already got the next generation available to you now with HTML5, content that's a SaaS model hosted in the cloud and delivered from a state-of-the-art CMS. So if you're new to Driver's Alert and LMS courses, we hope that you've learned something new and valuable to take with you today. And if you would like to see any of our content, you can visit our website at www.lmscourses.com, and feel free to contact us and reach out to us with any questions, or if you'd like to arrange a personal demo, just contact us at sales@driversalert.com. And now I'll turn it back over to Rich.
Okay, thank you, Ron. We're going to go ahead and open it up for some questions. We'll allow for a couple of minutes or so and field those, and then wrap up by announcing the Starbucks gift card winner. So I'll give you a few seconds here to go ahead and type those in, and then I will forward those on to Ron. Looks like one of the questions is on average, about how long are your e-learning courses?
Well, they're really as short as possible to cover the materials. Our corrective action courses typically range in the 10 to 20 minute range. Overall, probably we average around a 30-minute time frame per topic. So we really try to cover the material just as succinctly as we can. But where there's requirements like for DOT, reasonable suspicion is required to be a 2-hour course, we'll obviously meet those time requirements. But where there aren't seat time requirements, we try to get those courses as short as possible to cover the material.
Okay, this question addresses updates and regulatory changes. So how does a customer receive those changes when something like that takes place? Do those updates happen automatically? Is there a notification? What actually goes on?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as you recall, our content management system is a cloud service, cloud-hosted service and database-driven. So all of those regulatory changes and best practice updates are done into the database itself, and those changes are automatically delivered to the client next time they load a course. So there's nothing that the client has to do on their end in terms of updates and maintenance, version control with older content and archiving. All of that is done automatically because it's all database driven and delivered from the cloud.
Okay, we have time for one more question. This one is related to customization. So this person's asking, they have existing training materials. What is the process that one would have to go through to take those assets and turn them into an e-learning course?
Yeah, so basically any of your existing assets, your graphics, your images, video that you have, all of those things can be leveraged to develop new custom courses. We can start out with one of our existing library courses and apply those assets to the course. So basically you would work with our production team, our instructional designers and developers, and work with us to provide whatever video or image assets that you have. And if you have your own subject matter experts, you can also leverage their expertise in updating and customizing the course to make it specific for your industry and your company. So you have the ability to leverage all those existing assets as well as your people to make the customization process much more efficient and cost effective. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, that's about all the time we have for questions. We're pushing right up here on the 30-minute mark. So if you still have questions related to today's topic or questions regarding any of our fleet safety solutions, or you'd like to schedule a full walkthrough of any of our e-learning content, feel free to contact us using the 800 number you see on your screen, or send us an email at sales@driversalert.com. We will be sending a follow-up survey of this presentation. We do always look at all the feedback that you give, good or bad, so we can continue to improve the services that we offer in fleet safety and also in general safety. And we will include a link to recording of this presentation as well as an introduction to our customer referral program. And now we're going to go ahead and announce the winner of today's Starbucks gift card.